The Kingdom of Norway often reveals itself as a mysterious and almost unexplored country. Awareness about it is usually quite stereotypical. People often think of Norway as the homeland of the Vikings, whose modern descendants are skilled in whale hunting, known for their resolute character, and where it seems, mythical trolls still hide in the local mountains, away from human eyes. Norway, small and cozy, stretches along 3 seas: the North Sea, the Barents Sea, and the Norwegian Sea. The country is one of the most beautiful on the planet, a land of picturesque sea inlets, which are melodiously called fjords here. Norway is mountains, streams, seas, the crystalline blue sky, white snow, sparse sunlight, and generous people who are the bearers of a unique culture. Its Nordic beauty captivates with its untouched nature, which is a source of pride and an invaluable national treasure. Nature calls thousands of travelers to witness glaciers, snow-covered treetops, and the mesmerizing flashes of the northern lights in the endless Norwegian sky. Who wouldn't want to walk the paths of the Vikings and discover the most fascinating aspects of this beautiful part of Scandinavia? So, what is this country of the north really like? Norway is unique. Its history is closely intertwined with the Norwegian Sea, a marginal sea in the Arctic Ocean, situated between the Scandinavian peninsula, Iceland, and Jan Mayen Island. When people think of Norway, what often comes to mind first are ships, thrilling sea adventures, and of course, the Vikings, the medieval pirates celebrated in grand Scandinavian sagas. Norway's harsh climate posed significant challenges for the first settlers along the coast, who depended on the sea for their livelihood. Over time, the Vikings began to engage in farming and livestock raising, which required more land. By the late 700s, the Norwegian port people, which is what Vikings translates to from Norwegian, set out to conquer neighboring lands on their swift ships. The Drakars, sturdy, strong, and fearless, the Vikings wore metal helmets and armor, rowing with 60 oars at once, and no force could stop their advance. It seemed even the turbulent waves of the Norwegian Sea would retreat in fear, carrying their longships with their high prows and sterns adorned with dragon heads. The Vikings' navigational skills and maneuverable ships were perfectly suited for long voyages and sudden raids. In the Middle Ages, there were no precise navigational instruments. But this did not deter the brave sailors. The Vikings used living compasses, ravens, when necessary, they would release the birds one by one. If a raven flew in the direction of the ship, they continued on course. If the bird turned, the Vikings adjusted their route accordingly. The skill and determination of Norway's ancestors led to many discoveries. By 820, the entire Irish coast was settled by Vikings. Even today, there are about 100,000 Norwegian place names on the Shetland Islands. The Vikings also ventured south to the European continent, navigating the seas of France, Spain, and the Mediterranean. The bold seafarers even reached the eastern coast of Africa, now modern-day Morocco. Norwegian researchers of Viking expeditions assert that their ancestors were the first to reach the shores of America, casting doubt on the discoveries of Amerigo Vespucci and Christopher Columbus. We are not questioning the contributions of these explorers. No. But how else can we explain the Viking settlements in North America 500 years before Columbus? The Viking era lasted until 1050. In the 9th century, Norway began to develop the characteristics of a state, and the inevitable processes of feudalization required the establishment of a form of governance. The first king of Norway was Harald Fairhair, nicknamed for his beautiful hair. According to the Scandinavian sagas, the future king vowed not to cut or comb his hair until the fragmented Norwegian kingdoms were united. Initially, he was called Unkempt. Only after his significant victories did he become known as Fairhair. It was during Harald's reign that the name Norway, meaning the Northern Way, came into use. The dynastic line of the first king ruled the country until the 14th century. For a long time, a subsistence economy prevailed in Norway. Nothing was sold and nothing was bought. And an outbreak of the plague also hit the country. The Black Death wiped out almost half of the population. The young state had no choice but to join the Kalmar Union, leaving it as an almost powerless territorial part of Denmark for a long time. The self-awareness of the strong and determined Vikings did not allow Norway to remain a dependent state indefinitely. In 1814, the country freed itself from Danish rule and established its fundamental state law. Interestingly, Norway's constitution is one of the two oldest in the world, has not been amended, and remains in force to this day. However, full independence was only achieved in 1905, when the union with Sweden was finally dissolved. It is remarkable that Norway, a country of formidable Viking conquerors, has maintained neutrality throughout modern history, refrained from participating in wars, and focused all governmental efforts on the well-being of its citizens. Today, the Kingdom of Norway is a modern European state with a population of over 5 million people. Norway has repeatedly been named the best country to live in, according to the Human Development Index of the United Nations. The kingdom boasts one of the highest per capita incomes in the world. It is an exemplary model of the successful functioning of the Scandinavian model of state and civil society. Effective reforms have contributed to significant economic progress. Norway has rapidly developed and quickly joined the ranks of countries with successful economies. For centuries, the life of the Norwegian people has been tied to the sea. Starting in the 17th century, the country saw substantial growth in shipbuilding, and now this industry, along with fishing, remains a priority for Norway. The country's fishing fleet is one of the most modern. In the mid-20th century, oil deposits were discovered in the North Sea, and now Norway is highly skilled in the construction of oil platforms. The fast-flowing rivers are an almost inexhaustible source of hydroelectric power, and the forests provide raw materials for the pulp and paper industry and woodworking industry. The unique natural beauty of Norway is a highly favorable factor for the development of tourism. The range of industry offerings is constantly expanding, requiring neither excessive financial investment nor practical effort, as all of Norway is a natural wonder. For many years, Norwegian educational and ecotourism has been unparalleled. It is well known that the country of the Northern Lights boasts some of the world's most popular ski resorts, with highly developed infrastructure that attracts a multitude of tourists. Additionally, Norway proudly hosts international winter sports competitions. And every year, the country continues to expand its hospitality industry. How can Norwegians not be proud of this? But Norway's greatest treasure is its hard-working people. It must be acknowledged that some stereotypes about Norwegians are not unfounded. They are often perceived as cold, straightforward, and they strictly adhere to the principles of personal boundaries. At the same time, they are extremely kind and trusting people who build their relationships solely on respect. This is why doors are not locked. Residents of both cities and provincial towns do not tend to think ill of others and do not intend to cause trouble for their neighbors. A notable characteristic of the Norwegian national character is their calmness and ability to react quietly to everything, never raising their voices even in difficult and unpredictable situations. Norwegians take their time to size up their conversation partners, are skilled at controlling their emotions, and never rush to make judgments. Respect for the elderly is universal. visitors to Norway are often surprised by the polite and respectful attitude toward older people. You can see lovely grandmothers and grandfathers mingling with the youth, chatting easily as if they were old friends or close relatives. Norway is considered a true exemplar of democracy, and for good reason. Its citizens actively influence government decisions, boldly express their views, and know how to stand up for their rights. In Norway, civic responsibility is instilled from a young age. Traditions matter. Norwegians hold their royal family in high regard. So making ironic remarks about the monarchy is unacceptable under any circumstances. Norway is a country where the descendants of Vikings firmly believe that the greatness of the kingdom depends not on the size of its territory, but on the people who live there. Oslo is a city with a Nordic character. The capital of Norway exudes noble restraint, refined simplicity, comfort, and coziness. It is one of the youngest cities in Europe and the oldest on the Scandinavian peninsula. Oslo is situated in the northern part of the picturesque fjord of the same name. The unique and elegant architectural style of the capital city is captivating. The leisurely pace of life, well-being, and complete absence of ostentation create a special atmosphere that provides inner calm and an unparalleled sense of simple human happiness. According to Scandinavian sagas, the city was founded by King Harald Hardrada in 1048. The origin of the name Oslo is still debated today. One theory suggests that Oslo is named after a local river that once flowed through the area. Another theory insists that Oslo, in Old Norse, means meadow of the gods. The wealth and incredible beauty of the local nature convincingly support the latter theory. In the Middle Ages, the town of Oslo was home to a royal castle, a hospital, and 400 houses for local residents. Over time, the city grew stronger and became the capital of the Norwegian state in 1299. However, after a devastating fire in 1624, Oslo was reduced to ashes. As the saying goes, adversity teaches wisdom. After such a destructive fire, Norwegians had no choice but to rebuild their capital. But this time using stone as the primary building material. They did not retain the name Oslo. The then King Christian IV subtly suggested that he wouldn't mind if the newly rebuilt capital was named after him. Thus, the city of Christiania emerged in Europe. The remnants of the old Oslo buildings were left outside the new political center of the country. In the 19th century, the young city grew rapidly, and expansion and annexation of suburban areas were inevitable. Christiania included the suburb that was once called Oslo. Only in 1925 was the name Christiania changed back to Oslo, and the area destroyed by fire was officially designated as the Old Town. When traveling through Norway, it's important to remember that the architecture in Scandinavian countries is not as diverse and magnificent as, for example, in Italy or France. The northern monarchs were not given to luxury and did not need to assert their power through grandiose palaces. Consequently, Oslo's architectural ensemble is quite modest. However, don't think you might get bored in the Norwegian capital. On the contrary, this northern city is famous for its unique attractions, which will not leave you indifferent. For instance, near the City Hall, the main administrative building of Norway, there's an interesting monument to a glove. A photo of you next to it will not only surprise your friends, but also enrich their knowledge about Norway, especially if you share stories of your unforgettable journey. The original sculpture is closely linked to the city's history from the distant 17th century. The glove was unveiled relatively recently in 1997. A young creative artist aimed to create a symbolic attraction that sheds light on an intriguing episode in Oslo's history. It's widely believed that she succeeded. According to legend, King Christian IV of Norway pointed with his finger on a map to where the new city should be located after the old one was destroyed by fire. It is said that at the site where the monument now stands, His Majesty brought city planners and threw his glove to the ground. Simple, clear, and convincing. Like in most coastal cities, Aker Brygge in Oslo is a central street and a favourite leisure spot for residents of the capital and visitors to Norway. It was once a shipyard, but today the industrial area by the fjord has become a zone for relaxation and entertainment. Of course, it now hosts upscale offices and expensive residential quarters. The luxury shops, entertainment centres, restaurants and cafes of Aker Brygge are never empty, despite the fact that the promenade could easily top the list of the most expensive, surpassing even Zurich and Geneva. Almost all the buildings here are either glass or wood, creating a unique atmosphere that needs no other description but one: beautiful. Scattered along the waterfront are numerous installations, fountains, and diverse sculptures. It's a truly interesting place. Visitors to the Norwegian capital, as well as locals, come here to stroll along the bay. Sit at the table of one of the restaurant barges. Enjoy the performance of street musicians and witness the leisurely sunset, a sight unique to Norway. From Aker Brygge, you get a stunning view of the stone castle, Akershus Fortress. The fortress was built at the end of the 12th century to protect Oslo's coastal borders. Norwegians are very proud that in its 700-year history, no enemy has ever captured Akershus Fortress. It was only during World War II, in 1940, that the fortress was seized by the Nazis. Today, the stone castle is one of the best examples of Renaissance architecture in Norway. The luxuriously decorated interiors of its castle halls, with harmonious symmetry, are filled with many original exhibits. Behind the thick walls of the fortress are several museums, one of which is dedicated to World War II. When you're in the Norwegian capital, make sure to find time to visit. In the spacious halls of Akershus Fortress, there's a unique model of Christiania, the former name of Oslo. If you're lucky enough to get a knowledgeable guide, they might tell you in a mysterious voice that the castle has a rather ominous reputation among the locals. They say that a ghost allegedly resides in the fortress's dungeon, sometimes causing mischief by slamming cupboard doors and moving chairs, scaring visitors. However, the guide will never admit that no one has actually seen the castle ghost. Practically for all guests of the capital of Norway, another remarkable curiosity is its Nobel Peace Prize Center. The solemn awarding of this prestigious prize truly captures attention in the small Oslo. The Peace Prize is one of the 6 Nobel Prizes established by the renowned Swedish industrialist and inventor Alfred Nobel. By his will, the prize is to be awarded to those who have contributed through their personal efforts to fostering friendly relations between nations and making effective efforts towards peace in areas where there has been conflict. Alfred Nobel decreed that the laureate should be determined by a committee of 5 people, elected exclusively by the Norwegian Parliament. It remains a mystery why Nobel chose Norway as the location for the award, especially as Norway was then part of Sweden. The Norwegian Nobel Committee, and indeed Norwegians themselves, reasonably speculate that Alfred Nobel considered Norway a more suitable country for presenting the prize, given its historical lack of military traditions compared to Sweden. Nevertheless, Norway is grateful for this choice. Annually, the head of the Norwegian Nobel Committee solemnly presents the Peace Prize exclusively in the presence of His Majesty, the King of Norway, on December 10th, the anniversary of Nobel's death. It should be noted that this prize is the only one among the Nobel Prizes that is not awarded in Stockholm. The capital of Norway will not fail to impress without visiting at least one of its numerous museums and exhibitions dedicated to the historical past of the country, the era of Norwegian national heroes. Among the best is the Viking ship museum in Oslo. Not visiting it is like hearing the bell but not knowing where it tolls. If you are traveling with family, make sure to visit together. You'll get so many impressions that they will last until your next journey. In the Viking Ship Museum, there are 3 authentic Viking ships from the 9th century. What catches attention the most? Undoubtedly, the best preserved is the 21-meter-long Oseberg ship, the largest and only Viking artifact in Scandinavia. This lavishly decorated vessel, known as the Ship of the Last Journey, was built around 800 AD as a sarcophagus for a Viking queen and 2 of her slaves. They were buried with numerous objects, clothing, and personal belongings. However, what is equally astonishing is the shipbuilding expertise and profound knowledge of the Vikings. They knew the secrets of this craft better than anyone. Also impressive in the museum is the working ship Gokstad, 75.5 feet long, designed for sailing with sails or rowing. It is likely that Norwegian Vikings used such ships for long sea voyages. At the Viking Ship Museum, visitors have the opportunity to watch an intriguing film titled Vikings Alive. To be honest, it's a captivating experience. It's not just a compelling tale about artifacts, but also a demonstration of the intricacies of their construction. Moreover, it's a rare chance to learn more about the challenging and adventurous lives of the Vikings, Norway's fearless ancestors. Norway's nature is mesmerizing. There's something mysterious in the beauty of its numerous sea bays. Glaciers, rugged mountains, vast forests, the northern reserve of picturesque shores and emerald valleys. It's a unique surrounding world, shaped entirely by the harsh northern climate. More than 1/3 of the country lies beyond the Arctic Circle. Norway's coastline is entirely carved by legendary fjords, long bays that often stretch deep into the land. The ancient forests and unmatched views before the background of this Scandinavian state are hard to name ordinary landscapes, as they are a true haven for relaxation amid untouched nature. From the incredible northern lights to the restrained perfection of the Lofoten Islands, all of Norway is a treasury of remarkable natural landmarks that must be seen. A significant part of the country is occupied by lakes. There are about 200,000 of them in Norway, all small, elongated by tectonic cracks and glacier paths. It was their destructive force during the Ice Age that formed many of these famous fjords, which are perhaps the country's most iconic natural landmarks. And its postcard. Overall, Norway boasts over 1,000 fjords, each one unique. Externally, these gigantic sea bays resemble blue rivers, but their water is marine. The fjord shores are surrounded by majestic cliffs, from which cascading waterfalls swiftly fall, originating from high mountain glaciers. However, thanks to the warm Gulf Stream, the climate in Norwegian fjords is relatively mild. The water almost never freezes. Norway's most famous fjords, Geirangerfjord and Nærøyfjord, located on the western coast, are UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Equally impressive are the Sognefjord and Lysefjord, flanked by the famous Preikestolen and Kjeragbolten cliffs. In any season, these majestic waterways with waterfalls and lush greenery create a truly fairy tale landscape. One of Norway's fjords, Hardanger, is known for its fruit orchards. Yes, you're right. The cold Norwegian winter passes, and suddenly everything starts to blossom with greenery, flowers, and fruit trees. The fjord becomes especially beautiful from July to September when the fruits ripen. And you can pluck apples, pears, and even cherries right from the streets. It's not likely to surprise someone from moderate latitudes. But in Norway, it looks unusual. And in the fjord, there's a waterfall where you can swim in the summer. And, they say, even make a wish that will surely come true. It seems that greater beauty cannot be imagined, but around every fjord bend unfolds a new remarkable scene, surpassing the previous one. Hardly can one find another place on Earth where through a sea bay amidst pristine nature, one can travel straight into a fairy tale. Jotunheimen National Park is yet another natural wonder, rightfully dubbed as the Mountain Kingdom of Norway. Jotunheimen, also known as the home of giants, encompasses a significant area of wild nature amidst towering mountains, lush valleys, and crystal clear lakes. The national park is relatively young, with organized visits dating back to 1980. The landscape of Jotunheimen is predominantly mountainous, with a few picturesque valleys in its western part, where the sparse inhabitants face daily risks due to the constant danger of avalanches. Within the park's boundaries lie over 250 mountain peaks, exceeding 6,561 feet in height. The peak of Galdhøpiggen reaches 8,100 feet and stands as Norway's highest point. despite its rugged terrain. A road through Jotunheimen was established 600 years ago. Peasants used this road to travel to towns for trading surplus provisions and returned home with textiles, fish, and metal tools necessary for daily life. The hiking trails in Jotunheimen National Park are something special. It should be noted that they are tailored for similarly special travelers. Some hiking paths are quite challenging in difficulty level. However, this does not deter adventurous tourists. You'll encounter all sorts in Jotunheimen: rafting enthusiasts and mountaineers, trekkers and spelunkers, horseback riders and cyclists. Everyone feels right at home, finding recreation to suit their taste. For those who enjoy hiking, the route along the Besseggen Ridge is particularly appealing. It's a narrow pass between Lake Gjende and Lake Besvatnet. Even though tourists abound in the area, you won't regret making the journey here. The beauty witnessed sometimes prompts the question, am I dreaming? Is all of this real? Because no other mountain route in Norway compares to scenic grandeur. For the safety of hikers, especially challenging sections are equipped with metal grips. However, some of these have unfortunately been barbarically pulled out by mountain travelers who inexplicably cared only for themselves. Therefore, rely on your own caution, prioritize personal safety, and heed the guide's instructions. When fatigue sets in and adverse weather conditions persist, Jotunheimen National Park offers plenty of hotels, campsites, and rest areas. Accommodations are available both at the foot of the mountains and within them. In the nearby town of Eidsbugarden, there's an alpine centre. In the world, countless roads function as intended. But there are those that are hard to classify as ordinary infrastructure. Why? Because they are truly astonishing structures designed to inspire and amaze. The Atlantic Road in Norway, rightfully considered the country's best tourist route, is a prime example of such. It's part of the national tourist route located in the western part of Norway, along the Atlantic Ocean coast. Stretching just over 5 miles, it connects small picturesque islands with 12 bridges. The most famous bridge is the Storseisundet Bridge, 75.5 feet high and uniquely curved to allow maritime vessels to pass underneath. In 2006, the Atlantic Road was named the best in the country, and a year earlier received the designation Norway's Construction of the Century. For travellers along the route, there are viewing platforms with convenient parking areas that offer magnificent views of the ocean waters, surrounding islands, and, if fortunate, sightings of whales and seals. Certain sections of the road are situated quite low, so during storms, the road surface can be literally covered with waves. It's advisable to avoid trips during such times to prevent accidentally ending up in the water. However, many tourists are undeterred by this prospect and are eager to bravely take photos against the backdrop of the raging ocean. Typically, avid travelers will readily list a dozen reasons to visit Norway. Moreover, all travelers emphasize that this northern country, albeit quite cold, is the most beautiful. Of course, experienced travelers will also tell you about its primary tourist attraction. Nothing captivates like the northern lights in the Norwegian night sky. The Northern Lights is something each of us has heard of at least once in our lives, seen plenty of photographs and illustrations of this atmospheric marvel of nature. Without overwhelming our video journey with scientific definitions of this celestial phenomenon, we'll still say that it should be regarded as fluorescent light. The sky is painted with incredible colors and creates an impression of something truly magical. However, this is not magic. It's a direct connection with solar activity, planetary components, and characteristics observed in the atmosphere during moments of colorful luminosity. Areas of the world where it can be seen are exclusively located above the Earth's poles. The northern, or more precisely, the polar lights, are formed due to bombardment by subatomic particles moving from the sun, more commonly known to us as magnetic storms. Solar wind causes activation of atoms, which in turn produce the colorful luminescence that we observe. This natural phenomenon is characteristic only of Earth's polar regions near the North and South poles. This means that the lights can also be southern. Its altitude ranges from 49 to 621 miles above the Earth's surface and is one of the most beautiful natural phenomena. However, in fairness, it's worth noting that others, no less beautiful, exist. Thunder, lightning, rainbow. They just don't have such an impressive scale. Thanks to the fact that the polar lights occur at a sufficiently high altitude, they can be seen from many subpolar points on the planet. Although there have been times when the polar lights were observed all over the Earth. To this day, it's not reliably known when exactly a celestial flash might occur, since we don't have enough comprehensive knowledge about solar storms. Scientists suggest they occur every 11 years, but these are very rough estimates. It's truly unknown when the polar lights might occur to be able to see them. And, that's not so bad. Often, waiting for a miracle is much better than the miracle itself. Apparently, that's why the number of hunters of the Northern Lights is growing, and countries where it can be observed are becoming extremely attractive for tourist travel. Where to find these blessed places on Earth? The largest number of them is in Sweden, Alaska, Canada, Scotland, Iceland. However, unquestionably, Norway is the most famous homeland of the Northern Lights. Here you can relatively easily witness this fantastic natural phenomenon. For Norwegians, the Northern Lights are a part of life. Therefore, it's not surprising that Scandinavian epic literature contains numerous legends about this incredible natural phenomenon, the majority of which originated during the Viking era. They, more than anyone else, were often witnesses because they spent a long time on sea voyages. Even today, among many Norwegians, there's a caution not to wave hands when the sky is shimmering with a whimsical palette of lights, because it seems to drain one's energy. Of course, the youth, as expected, cheerfully ignores this prohibition, quickly pulling out smartphones to capture original photographs. By the way, the colors of the Northern Lights in photos are much brighter than in reality. However, not everything we know about the Northern Lights is sheer joy and unforgettable experiences. This amazing phenomenon, caused by sharp changes in the sun's magnetic field, releases an enormous amount of energy that reaches our planet. On the one hand, it offers a beautiful spectacle, but on the other hand, magnetic storms can affect our well-being. Sometimes, magnetic fluctuations create interference for television signals, telephony, satellites, radars, and various electronic systems. But according to scientists, solar winds are not a catastrophe for humanity. And they add, today, the culmination of the Northern Lights is coming to an end, and we will see this beauty less and less. Experts note that the so-called Northern Lights zone extends around the Earth approximately 1,000 to 2,000 miles from the magnetic pole. Therefore, there's good news. Northern Norway is the perfect place for hunting the Northern Lights. That's why we recommend taking advantage of the opportunity to contemplate this fairy tale play of light in the sky of this amazing country with a pounding heart. Experienced hunters recommend choosing the Lofoten Islands, the archipelago of Vesterålen, Spitsbergen Island, or the coast of the North Cape. The sky there is almost always cloudless due to strong winds, which ensures visibility to enjoy the magical splendor of nature. However, it must be emphasized once again, no one knows for sure when it will happen. The chances of witnessing the Northern Lights significantly increase between September and March, as these months have the longest nights at the poles. Therefore, during the autumn-winter period, the number of tourists in Norway is like mushrooms after a heavy rain. And then, it all depends on luck. We strongly believe that patient waiting always brings reward. It seems like you've frozen to the bone because there's no escaping the piercing northern wind. The gaze is fixed on the dark Norwegian sky for hours on end. At some point, a sneaky thought creeps in that it's all in vain. Perhaps the northern lights won't be seen this time. Suddenly, the ink of the sky will stir and come to life. An endless, transparent veil will begin to cover the entire celestial dome. Some invisible force will sway it, and it will be adorned with a delicate greenish haze. Here and there, the sky will suddenly turn into red and lilac tongues of flashes, and just as quickly, they will fade away, as if born only for that moment. The transparent mist will slowly approach, then recoil and dissipate, as if woven from the finest strands of light. On this shimmering canvas, lilac-patterned stripes will bloom unexpectedly from somewhere else. For a moment, it will seem like it's all over. The glow has faded. But then, long moving rays, some gathered into bright bundles, will quiver again, roll in green waves across the sky dome. And then suddenly, they will start dancing the celestial dance known only to them, burst forth and swiftly, like lightning, fly high, high. There they will freeze, forming a huge continuous crown, flickering farewell and extinguishing. For those fortunate enough to see the Northern Lights, their journey to Norway will be remembered for a lifetime. Even when that didn't happen, impressions of the uniqueness of this Scandinavian country will fill the heart with a desire to visit again. Here, there is everything, and even more to forever fall in love with these northern lands. After all, the land of the ancient Vikings generously gives the joy of discoveries. They are at every step amid the incomparable natural beauty that charms and surprises the world at first sight.